Hey guys, we're just gonna listen to a little bit of music and let a few more people come into the room and we'll get started. I would say by 10:02. Thanks for joining.
Building your online business? Go.
Okay, and with that, we'll get started. YouTube threw in a commercial. Really? Okay, so I know some of y'all were in, let's say, DJ Big A space. I'm so sorry his space crashed. He was really cooking in there. It was a good topic. But I was thinking about this morning, and I know a lot of people have. Well, I don't want to say a lot. I know there were discussions of should we vote the couch. That was a discussion we were having months ago. I want to say like maybe around March, April of this year, and people were just really determined. But then the closer we've gotten to the election, I've heard even pastors saying, if you don't vote, you're voting. You're actually just voting for the other side. Either way it goes, right? Because you could say, even as a Democrat, if you're not voting, that vote's going to go to Donald Trump or vice versa. If you're not voting Republican for Donald Trump, that vote goes to Kamala Harris. And it really made me think about Pontius Pilate, who had the ability to save Jesus, but instead he decided to wash his hands as if he was absolved of the responsibility that he was given. He literally, his wife was like, I had this horrible dream. You need to release this man. And instead of releasing him, he did say, okay, I'm just going to say he's going to be flogged. I'm not going to set him free. I'll give them Barabbas, but then I'll just wash my hands of it. And whatever the people do, they do. So he felt that by not doing anything, he was absolved of the responsibility of the outcome by not participating. And I just wanted to put it to those in the room. Thank you for showing up. I don't want to pronounce it wrong. Check, CHEC, and Sexy Raw and Fish and Grits again. Thanks for joining. I really wanted to put it to you guys, and please, join me as speaker. So I'm not in here just speaking by myself. So I'll invite you guys up to speak so we can have a whole conversation and discussion around this, because I think it's important to really talk about this. Because as Christians, a lot of times we think, okay, well, I'm not voting because I don't want to get involved in politics. I can't have a voice either way. This is crazy. But your non vote is actually a decision. You are going to affect people's lives by not participating. And I think that's the one thing that really hit me this morning. And like I said, I just wanted to open it up to you guys. I've sent out the invitations. Hopefully you get them. Hopefully the connection is right, because I know sometimes the connection doesn't always work. But again, does voting the couch make you a Pontius Pilate? Does it make you someone who, even though you have the ability to make a difference, you decide not to because you feel like it doesn't matter, or you just don't want to get your hands messy? And I'll turn it over to Check. Thanks for joining.
No problem. Let me put my seatbelt on one moment.
Okay, just join us back when you
It's
can.
no,
Yeah.
I'm done. It's not that it's not that I think my vote doesn't matter. Because I'm currently a non-voter. The way I look at it is that it's like it's essentially no taxation without representation. And if we're not being represented the right way, I don't really see a purpose in participating in a rigged game personally. If you look at all these candidates, they're all funded by these parties who who literally, if we look into the history of them, um, they don't fuck with us. That's just the straightforward way of saying it. So if we had a candidate that we are funding from the grassroots that we all can get behind, that has like policies and talking points that we can all get along with, by all means, I would participate. But if we look at the voting population versus the non-voting population, the majority of the country are non-voters. So I could argue, why does the minority get to make decisions for the majority? And also, too, non-voting is a choice. You know what I'm saying? It's literally saying I don't feel represented by none of these candidates. So what is the purpose of participating in something that you know is you're not being represented in? That's kind of my point. No one's talking about the 14th Amendment being revoked that allows illegal immigrants over here. Nobody's talking about reparations. Nobody's talking about all the mass incarceration and people like that. Nobody's talking about black women being killed in hospitals and all of the healthcare and stuff like that. The hospitals target our women. The jails target our men. So if it was policies actually aimed towards us and specifically us, then I could get behind it. But this whole if it's for the good of America, it will help black people too. I can't get behind that. And honestly, I don't see a purpose in selecting any of these candidates that are not really talking about it. And even the independent ones, eventually they're gonna have to get behind a party in order to be taken kind of seriously. Because again, politics is a money game. So in order to fund these campaigns and everything else, you do need a kind of backing from a group of people, whether it's the grassroots or these political parties that none of us really agree with. I do agree that black Americans, that we have conservative views, but does not make us Republicans. You know what I'm saying? And that's my take on the matter. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you for your feedback on that. And thank you for, explaining your position. Because a lot of times, people, when they talk about, I'm a non-voter, they just kind of leave it there and they don't really explain why they're not voting. Like what is their position. And I really appreciate just your feedback in totality. I am the founder of the Redemption Party. We did win our first election last year. Started the party in January last year, and we run the town of Roseland. So, it's not a huge win on a national scale, but it is a win for a party that just started, because it is a value system based, not ideology, but based on tenants. And I'll turn it over to Sexy Rock.
Yeah, I do hear a great deal of the feeling or not feeling acknowledged or recognized in these moments, and I understand where people are coming from. Hence the reason why we have to be our saviors and our solutions. We cannot expect others to do certain things for us, because it is our responsibility. We have accountability as a founding population of America, as super citizens of America, that we hold a certain amount of power that we continuously give away because we expect individuals or beings to do or align with us, right? There's none of that. We have to take care of us because of our experience in this country and what we've done. We have equity here. So I'm encouraging many to look at what we can do for our collective and not what others can do. We hold the power to whatever political party we decide that we want to back or support or create. It is us, right? It is for us to sustain or have that power for us, not others to come in and say, "Oh yeah, we acknowledge your power." That's not what they're going to do. We can see that many are coming to take what is ours. So in that, there are candidates or many candidates, I say, within our collective. However, now um, we must get them into position and we must back them and make sure that whomever that we do support in our political arena, that they are loyal to the collective, because what we're finding out now is that many aren't loyal to the collective and they have it backwards. It's not meant for the politician to get into office, get your vote, and then tell you what tell the constituents what to do. It's the constituents that tell the elected officials what to do. And we have that backwards right now because we have a great deal of individuals in office in our politics that are corrupted, and they are not even adhering to the laws of the land. So with that, we have to correct some things, and in correcting some things, it has to be us that are out here in these political parties pushing these agendas and the messaging and being specific. It's nothing wrong with us being specific for us, right? So that's where I'm at. How are we going to enact this change and reverse what is happening? Because this has only been happening in, I'm going to just say, the last 60 years. We know we had representation from our collective via the a civil rights movement. Even before then, I know because I do read, and I've been reading a great deal of our ancestors' works that they've left. Plus, just knowing how they were in government and they wasn't even elected officials, and they were still in government speaking on our behalf and doing things for us. So this is a recent phenomenon for us, and we see what it is, and I'm all about us self-correcting, uh, meaning it doesn't matter what party you decide you want to support. However, you know that you must be carving out a sect for your people, our collective of freedmen or Black American Negroes, and that we all, whatever party we are aligned with, come together and push those policies specifically for our people. And we work together in bipartisanship. I'll land it there.
Sister Raw, I'm not gonna lie. That 14th Amendment Section 1 bothers me. Like we gotta get that out of here. That
Well,
that's
it shouldn't bother you because it's for us. It was specifically for us and our experience. It's not for others, right? It's been misinterpreted by the immigrants in office so that they can get their people here. That's all that is. That's all that is. Because before, they could not immigrate here on the 14th Amendment. Why do you have immigration laws? Why do you have the Hart Celler Act, a part of the civil rights? You wouldn't have that if they could just come over on the 14th Amendment. So that's where
the
we're
the
getting
Section
lost.
1 was not for us. That's why I specifically said Section 1. Anybody that's born on United States territory is not a United States citizen. I specifically said Section 1. I wasn't speaking about the whole 14th Amendment, but we could go down all the amendments
Section
and see
1,
how
in
they.
anything in the 14th Amendment was specifically created
No,
for
ma'am.
the emancipated.
No, ma'am. It was not.
Yes,
Section
it
1 was not.
was.
No,
Yes, it was.
I disagree.
Okay,
It
well,
was not.
so when was the 14th Amendment? added to the Bill of Rights or added to the Constitution?
1867.
Okay, so how is that not for us?
Because again, all of us Black Americans understand that we do have roots here in America as well. That some of our lineage comes from other places, but we have roots here. So with that being said, it doesn't make us foreigners. We actually have blood ties to this land. So
No,
we don't
no,
need
no,
us.
no
We
one's
don't.
saying that
Can
we
I?
don't. I'm
Can I?
saying that the 14th Amendment is specific for us and our experience.
Section 1 of the 14th Amendment is not for us, and it is how people can cross seas and have children over here, and those children get all of the benefits of being a United States citizen.
And check,
That's how
I'm
that's
saying to
happening.
you, you're not hearing what I just said.
Go
I
ahead, sis.
said that the 14th Amendment is being misinterpreted today via the immigrants that are in political offices now to confuse you. If the 14th Amendment was added in 1867 after our emancipation, they were not thinking about any kind of immigrants coming here utilizing the 14th Amendment because they had immigration laws even then. That's what I'm saying. I get what
And I'm
I get where
disagreeing
you're
with you.
at, but you're utilizing the immigrants, and I'm gonna call them immigrants because only immigrants will have such an interpretation of the 14th Amendment. Only an immigrant will be able to
Mm,
logic to think irrationally and say that you can have two illegal aliens have a baby on this soil and a baby is now a citizen. That that doesn't make any sense.
of course, and that's why I'm pushing back against Section 1 of the 14th
Well,
Amendment.
well,
But you're
and
talking
I'm
about the
saying that
entire
I'm
amendment.
voting for Trump because
That's
Trump understands that 14th Amendment and he will make sure that it goes to the Supreme Court, the largest
Trump is a
legislative
second generation immigrant.
judicial. It doesn't matter. He
It
knows
does
it,
matter.
it doesn't matter when he knows what America is, right? If an immigrant is coming here and aligns with us as Americans, then they are on the right track. They don't align with us as Americans, they're off the track and they're off code, and we need to get rid of them, right? Because that's what's happening. They have taken our 14th Amendment, immigrants in our politics, and now reinterpreting it to mean that they can bring over their people. That's all that is.
Okay, so I'm giving pushback because it's slightly insulting my intelligence. I can interpret things very well. I'm gonna post what it actually says. Section 1. I'm gonna put the receipts up there so everybody else can see. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. That's the only section I'm speaking about right now. Allows birthright citizenship. So it's not about interpretation. We all can read up in this room. With all due respect, it's about how this section is being abused by these immigrants, and they're still able to come over here, have anchor babies today in 2024
Check.
because of
I
this
agree with
amendment.
you. I agree with you. Hence the reason I'm voting for Trump because he understands that the 14th Amendment is not for immigrants. It's not to be utilized for them
Trump
as
is an
birth
immigrant. Trump
tourism.
is an immigrant.
It's not
Like, what
being
are you?
it's not to be utilized for them for chain migration. He literally has it on his agenda 47. I'm gonna post that too. So people can see that the man and his team at least understand how America was formed and how the Constitution should be working right now for Americans, and it's not.
Trump is an immigrant. That's kind of the point
But,
I'm
but what
saying.
does that
Like,
got to do with anything if he's standing with you as an American?
he's not standing with us. It's all smoke and mirrors. Like, none of these politicians are standing with us, and that's
So
kind of
what
what I'm
what are you
saying.
gonna do then, Chet?
What am I
What
gonna
do you
do
want to
right there?
do?
I'm involved myself locally in Harris County where I reside. You know what I'm saying? I have to do things locally, but I do understand that I can't knock people for who are voting. I'm just giving my point of view and what I think, and I'm assessing the situation. So what I'm saying is what we have to do as Americans, because we're one of the only groups of people who are actually Americans. Every amendment literally takes power away from the Bill of Rights. Every amendment is a change. So all these 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, we have to go down all of those individually and see how they stripped power away from powers away from actual Americans. It's taking away from the Bill of Rights. That's why this new Constitution, yes, we do have the right to abolish and amend it. However, the way that it's being amended, the way that it is right now, is not. It's not a template of what it was originally created for. That's kind of what I'm pushing back against. And Trump literally is a second generation immigrant. His parents are immigrants. So
What? Okay.
I, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. You have to be weary of people who get in the door and then shut the door behind them for their own people. Everything that he's talking about, he's literally contradicting himself. And I'm not mad at people for voting for him, but acting like he's this savior that we like he's just doing his job. He was a businessman before. You know what I'm saying? Like, all these politicians do is sell lies and get us to get us to cast our vote. And I'm saying, I bet on us. You feel me? I would bet on anybody in this room. What, the host, you know what I'm saying? The founder of the Redemption Party. I'd bet on you. I bet on April. I bet on Brett. You know what I'm saying? I bet on one of us before I vote on them. That's kind of what I'm saying. But I'm never gonna knock you, sister, on your vote. And that's why I don't want. I hate how politics sometimes it gets us like kind of at each other. But me and you are essentially on the same page. I was just talking about Section 1 of it. And if Trump is talking about abolishing Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, shit, send me that shit and we can get it rolling. You know what I'm saying? I'll
He's
stand
not
corrected.
abolishing it. He's going to challenge the interpretation of it. So then, when he challenges his okay, so he states, and he keeps stating it. As soon as he gets into office, he's signing an executive order. He's rescinding citizenship of those illegal immigrants that have had children on the soil. He's suspending any benefits that they may be receiving. He's also going to deport, right? So all of this is definitely going to make all of these attorneys, immigration attorneys, counter, and these NGOs that have been supporting these illegal immigrants coming into the country, they're going to immediately counter him, right, with his executive order. And it's going to automatically, because he's the president, he's the of the top executive branch of government, it's going to challenge. So the Supreme Court is going to have to take up the case, and the Supreme Court is going to have to actual rule on the actual interpretation of the 14th Amendment, which will immediately, they've already kind of um, um, said it in a roundabout way with the recent affirmative action in August on the ruling of that. But they're going to circle back to search slavery and how the 14th Amendment came about. And in that as well, all the different immigration laws. So I see it working in our favor. That's how I see it.
Just one question. So this is going to be enforced via the military, because you say an executive order. So the executive branch is going to make a decision that affects the states.
Everything the federal government does affect the Constitution, affects states. States have to write their constitutions within the boundaries of our Constitution, of the
So
federal Constitution.
it's a little different for Texas. We have our own constitution, but again,
Every state
I
has their own constitution.
not necessarily. Not all states don't have the constitution. But they not necessarily. But as far as the conversation goes, again, um, I understand, and I understand how that could be a tool to help us out. But I strongly push back on giving the federal government too much power, because a lot of these things we can enforce ourselves in Texas. If I suspect someone to be an illegal immigrant, I can arrest them. I can call ICE on them. Like, you see what I'm saying? It's things that we can do in our power that we should not wait on the people who are actively who are actively terrorists, you know what I'm saying, in our communities.
Citizens
I
arrest.
don't
Come
agree
on,
with.
man. In
Oh,
Lone
Yeah,
Star
I
absolutely.
State.
totally
I will
agree with
arrest you.
that. I'm not opposed to any of that. I think we all should be also working with the federal government right now, putting in our applications to become asylum officers, to become part of ICE, because Trump has already said he's deploying ICE immediately. ICE is not in effect right now because your administration, your Biden Harris administration, is not sending ICE out, because that is a government agency. It's the federal government that dictates Homeland Security, Department of Justice. All of that is federal, and it goes down to our state and local levels.
I'm more for states' rights than federal rights. You know what I'm saying? I feel like each state is its own country. They have different exports, imports. They have their own driver's license requirements. They join the union at different times, and I think that should kind of be respected. And we should find some median for us to all to work in unison than needing an authoritarian government that taxes people without representing them 24/7. But that's just my take on it.
I like the banter. I like the argument. Definitely. I know with states, to your point, check with states' rights. Each state does act as its own technically United States. It's where the Constitution comes into question. It's how they exercise it. They can always give you more than the law, but not less. And that's where the government got it messed up. That's why we're owed reparations, because the federal government failed in their fiduciary duty to actually protect citizens in those states. And they allowed crimes to happen and occur with a protected class of citizens. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Highland. Go ahead. Okay, Highland's not talking. He might be driving. But the other thing that I
Yeah, I'm a
wanted to
little
add,
preoccupied. My bad, y'all.
oh, no problem. If everybody could definitely retweet the space, and thanks everybody for joining. We're talking about, does voting the couch make you a Pontius Pilate Christian? I know that when people came in there, we're talking about the 14th Amendment and definitely talking about a lot of the illegal immigration that we have and the abuse of the 14th Amendment. And that's what's happened. Our laws have been abused, they have not been upheld. That 14th Amendment was written specifically in the way it was for descendants, so that you and I, descendants of chattel slavery, could be automatic citizens born on this soil. Without the 14th Amendment, we would not be citizens of this country. So it was written for us, but then it was circumvented by individuals who wanted to use literally political warfare against a protected class of citizens. And so this actually makes our claim for reparations even that much greater. But that's a side note. But getting back to the Pontius Pilate Christian, Pontius Pilate, for those who aren't familiar with it, he was pretty much a governor that could have decided to release Jesus. He decided to wash his hands of it and say, well, you guys can flog him. I'm going to release Barabbas to you because you're asking, but I'm not going to tell you to crucify him. I'm going to wash my hands of this and you can do what you want. So he literally turned it over to the mob to do what they wanted to do. And Check, he really explained himself very well of why he's not voting, because he feels that he does not have any representation. Whereas some people who don't vote, they just say, I'm not voting because I'm upset, the government sucks, whatever. But they really don't have a position of why. And he really expressed his position as of why, and he's actually going to throw his hat in the ring and run for a position. He's not just going to accept the couch, even though he's sitting out this election. He just wants to ensure that if I do vote, I want my vote to count. I want it to matter, and I want to be represented in that. It's like if you're talking about puppy dogs and rainbows, and I want reparations, for example, and you're not talking about that. Why should you get my vote? Why should I even bother with you? And so I really wanted to have this conversation mainly because I know there are some people wanting to vote the couch. And if you do have the ability to vote, I would say if you're not going to vote top of the ticket, look at your local individuals that are running, because they really affect your day to day. I'm really focused on getting candidates that are running at the local level. I've got 4 running in this current election cycle for county council and also for school board. And then over the next 3 years, I've got 2 running for governor and 1 running for the mayor of Chicago. So I'm going to be pretty busy the next 3 years, just campaigning and getting the word out for these candidates, and hopefully adding even more candidates to the Redemption Party. Sexy Ron I met, she's, going in radical Republican to turn, the Republican and get that representation in there. And then I have the Redemption Party for those that don't want to do Republican or Democrat, but they want to participate in the political process, because these coalitions are what we're going to need to have that representation. Because as we all know, sometimes both parties, unfortunately, they don't hear us because we're not there, because we're just mad. We're mad at them. We're like, y'all suck. You hate us. You don't like us. You're not doing anything we're saying. But if we don't participate, how can we say that they hate us? Right. And again, like I said, I started the Redemption Party because I just really didn't align with either party. I wanted a party that did not have an ideology, but actually had tenets of the party that could be followed, upheld. We actually have a pledge for our candidates so they understand that reparations is important and that it's something that we need to focus on and get for our constituents, whoever those constituents are. There might be a small amount, there might be a large amount, depending on the geographic area you're in. But it's in that pledge to let the candidates know, hey, this is part of your charge if you are a candidate of this party. So don't let it be twisted. It's not going to be a talking point. It's actually going to be part of your charge to get it done. And with that, Highland, I don't know if you were still ready to speak or if you're just listening in. If you're still listening, that's totally fine. But check, I didn't know if you had any other feedback you wanted to give. Check, are you there? If you're speaking, I can't hear you. Sexy Raw, anyone?
Oh, I can hear you.
Okay. I didn't know if you wanted to give any more feedback to what I just said.
Yes, yes, yes. As far as like us teaming up, I love the fact that we were teaming up together. And one of the things that we discussed was people having other options, right? And knowing that we are collaborating together, and we're not attempting to pigeonhole anyone into one specific thing. Even though founder has stated that I am working in the Republican Party and reclaiming it and making sure we have established base there. We also work together in recruiting people for Redemption Party. She's been a part of many of our rallies, Black Patriots for Trump, and we loved it because then again, we're presenting another option for you. You don't have to say you got to be a Republican. Um, and in that we're going to work together in legislating and doing implementing certain things in the community that the community desires, constituents desires all over the nation. So we're building on that and being on the same page and like-mindedness. I think that's very important, and we'll be able to move the needle a little bit faster than us taking on saying I'm Republican and then I'm not representing my collective as a Republican. No, it's my collective first, and I'm a Republican going in to represent the collective, right, in the Republican Party. And I want more of us to be able to do that. And I went ahead and I was independent. I left, of course, the Democrat plantation back when I was 20 some years old, but then I became independent for all these years. And this is now a time where I decided to become a Republican because of more of the history that I've been reading and learning about our ancestors and what they were doing within the federal government. I kind of just want to pick that back up and extend it some more because I'm seeing that some of the Republicans that are in office right now or supposedly representing us are not representing us, right? They say they're representing us. They may represent us in phenotype. However, when they speak like Tim Scott, Wesley Hunt, they are of our lineage. They are not representing the constituents. They're representing the party. So that's one reason why I decided to become a Republican now. So founder, I really appreciate you, and you've been as open to be able to align with us and see the vision and us still being able to collaborate and move forward. That's what I really enjoy about this. So and that's where I'm at. It's all for the people. I'll land it there.
And thank you for that. Yeah, because it takes more than one party to get things across the line. And I think that's something we got to realize. It's not just going to be, okay, all the Republicans. It's almost like, I don't know if any of you guys watch football, but when you're at the goal and you're at one in goal and you're on the line, you might see your linemen on the offensive line push one person forward to like literally push them over that line for a touchdown. And it takes like 12 of them, not just one. It takes like the whole line sometimes. It's the only reason I'm laughing is because I grew up with my brother playing football, and I just thought it was hilarious. Um, but it takes more than one, and that's what we have to see within our collective, within our lineage, that it's going to take more than one because sometimes people just can't palate, either of the parties. And I'm just grateful for the Redemption Party and the work that we're doing and the work that we're going to continue to do and continue to just really fight for representation and have it in our party. It's like you don't have to worry about representation over here. You've got it. You don't have to fight for it. It's already there. But check, I wanted to bring you back into the conversation. I don't know if you're working or if
No,
you're connected.
dad duty, so I was just moving around. Did y'all had called me when I was gone?
I did call on you just, just
My
to
bad.
get your back and take on what Sexy Raw had said.
Uh, I'm not gonna pick apart what another black person is doing. You know what I'm saying? That's never my goal in these conversations. I was just giving a different outlook on just how I feel. As far as some things being done in good faith, but could ultimately bite us in the behind. And I was just more so highlighting. Hold on, let me put my seatbelt on. I'm gonna just say this very just bluntly. The idea of the federal government getting more power frightens me. I'm not gonna lie, it frightens me. Yeah, that's just the best way to say it.
And I'm glad for that, because we all have to have that in the pit of our belly because the federal government is there to support. They're not there to rule. They work for us. That's not their job to dictate to us. And I think a lot of these politicians have forgotten their place and what they need to do for us as, their constituents, because it says we the people on our contract here with the federal government. It's not the government gets to rule. And so I'm glad for your heart, just your intelligence of
But
states'
if we
rights.
keep voting for them, doesn't that make us complicit in a lot of these people being in office in the first place? I'm not even trying to blame anybody. It's more from an accountability point of view. Like, don't do we need to take some accountability on some of the things that or some of the people that are getting elected into office?
Yeah, we do. And really fight hard to get them out. Like Lindsey Graham is one that I'm like, how does this man keep getting into office? Like he is horrible. Like what South Carolina, what is going on? Because I mean this man gets booed at rallies all the time, but yet he's still in office. Like I don't get it. James Clyburn, there's another one. Like, how are you still here? Chuck Schumer. Like I could just go down the line. I could probably go up about 10 of
Man,
them.
that Negro gave
Like
them gave them
how?
gave them people some catfish nuggets and everybody started voting again.
Fish fry. I'm like, how is this happening? But then after he gets in office, everybody wants to be upset about it. Everybody wants to complain. Well, somebody voted for him. And right now, with James Clyburn, we got Marcel Dixon. So if you're in South Carolina, look, get the word out. Get Marcel in there, you know, because at least that's a start for representation, right? He's not running with the Redemption Party. He's running with another party, but he's one of us. And that's what we got to see. Like, look, one of us, right? not just in blackface and on coat, but us is running. And here's my thing: even if he doesn't get to the House, I would love to see him in a state position, maybe governor, maybe a House or state Senate seat, right? Because then he could really work on the laws for reparations even at the state level and getting it done for the state because he knows the harms that were caused there in South Carolina in particular, and he could still petition his federal representatives in the Senate and the House to get those bills passed. So there's still a pathway for us to get this done. It's not over. But I hear what you're saying. It does seem like insanity when you see people like Mitch McConnell getting, put in office over and over again. It's like this dude needs to retire. Like he is supposedly retiring. I don't know until I see it, until I see somebody else in his seat. I'm just not even going there. But then you'll see governors like Gavin Newsom who literally stripped away parental rights. And I'm like, that is completely unconstitutional. And no one's challenging him on it. Maybe they are, and I just don't know about it. Maybe there's a lawsuit out there. There should be, because you cannot take away life and liberty and freedom. That's one of our freedoms to be parents, right? To have children, to, that's part of our life and liberty. And you're going to tell me that my kid can basically decide one day they're a boy or a girl, and if I don't agree with it, you're going to take my kid? We're done. Like, you need to be in a whole prison somewhere. He is American Psycho on crack. Like, I need this guy gone, gone, out of politics because he is not helping anyone. But these are the people that we have to, shine a light on and say, we're not putting up with somebody like this. And this person wants to actually run for president. Like, oh no, no, you do not get the nuke code, sir. Absolutely not. No. After you smiling and grinning and standing up there in San Francisco, it's like, yeah, we cleaned up the city for, Xi Jinping. Why not? Oh, so now we know who you are. Now we can believe you. I mean, the stuff that they're doing there, the carbon tax that they're about to implement, and this is something that they want to do everywhere. So it's not just California. They're slowly trying to roll out this carbon tax. And that was something, you know, kind of put in an executive order, kind of snuck in by Joe Biden under his Build Back Better plan that they put in the Inflation Reduction Act, where they want to get carbon emissions down. But the downside to that is they're going to charge you more for fuel because you have a gas powered vehicle and not an electric vehicle. So they want to punish you basically for living. And these are the people that we have to fight against to get them out of office. But we can't sit on the sidelines and get it done. We have to get our hands messy and get involved in this um, world of politics. I don't like the fact that we have these two big bullies on the block, but the one thing that we are doing, I'm so proud of Sexy Ross. She's like, I'm going to infiltrate the bully and make sure that we have a voice at the table, and I'm fighting to have a voice for us at the table. But I definitely welcome anybody who wants to speak. Please request the mic. I'm going to be shutting this down in 20 minutes, but I'm holding this for anybody that's coming to the room. We're talking about Pontius Pilate. Um, are you a Pontius Pilate Christian? Have you just decided to wash your hands this election cycle because it's just so crazy? It's so insane. Like, I don't know. People have said that Harris, she might be sitting down. They might be just going like a whole Barack Obama show. Or, they haven't brought out Michelle too much. I don't know. They might have to, pull that trigger and pull out Michelle, then pull out Eminem. I was like, why are you pulling out people that nobody really cares about? Like, nobody's really thinking about Eminem like that. Like, he doesn't have that kind of sway with anyone. Like, as far as I know, if he does, if the real Slim Shady has some pull still, please let me know. As far as I know, I don't see too many people really, rolling with that person, especially with all the stuff that came out with Diddy. But that's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. But yeah, she's running out of gas, and this is the person that they want to shove on us to be the commander in chief, somebody who didn't get any votes in the primary, not one, and someone who, I don't know, y'all. I don't know. That whole Jesus is Lord situation, and when she, with the quickness, was like, you are at the wrong rally, I was like, wow, that was telling. That was extremely telling. And then the next day, she's at New Birth Church. Like nothing happened. Like nothing happened with your sorors. Somebody actually pointed that out on one of the social media platforms. She's like, yeah, there were she was surrounded by her sorors. There are deltas there. I'm sure there's some divine nines there. And I was just like, wow, you're at the wrong rally if you say Jesus is Lord. But you turn right around and go to church. So you just a sideline Christian. I don't even know if I can call you Christian at this point. You just don't even like God nor his son to have somebody thrown out of your rally for saying that. But then again, it was kind of a boost for the Republican Party because she said, like, yeah, you can go up the street to the other rally that's smaller than the 2,500 people in this room. And I don't know how big his rally was. honestly, but I think there were probably more people around the McDonald's than were at his rally because he was being the fry guy. And McDonald, the stunts that they are pulling, I'm just like, y'all are. This is better than a movie. I hope everybody's been getting clips and recording this so they can piece it together to have like election 2024 because it's been a wild ride. Like I'm so looking forward to November 5th. Then we've got two states going, "Oh, it might be 10 to 13 days. 2 weeks after?" Like really? I need y'all to get it together. Like where's the administration? Like you should have mail-in ballots no later than the Thursday before the 5th. And even that's too long. It should be the Tuesday before the 5th. If your stuff is not in here the Tuesday before the 5th of November, your vote's not going to count, period. There should not be any votes counted beyond the 5th. They should have everything done no later than midnight. Like you got till midnight. And if all your stuff ain't counted, look, we just going to take the highest bidder and call it a day. I mean, if they can get elections done in Taiwan, and look, in places that have less technology than what we have here in the United States, and we can't get it done, that's our problem. I mean, they're getting it done in North Carolina, and they're still having some of their issues up there because they had this really massive storm, but they're still getting it done. And we've got states that are intact, and they're just like, oh, we're not going to be able to get it done. You know what? Then you need to be fired. You need to just lose your job today and let somebody else come in and get your job done. Because it's like this is your whole job to run elections properly, and you cannot do your job. You're just failing at life. Like it needed to stop. But I'm totally ranting. But Sexy Raw, I'll let you have last words before we close out the space.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate you. Yes, I encourage any and everyone to get out and do a vote. And I have even said to my family, you may not like the candidates. However, what about us? Who can make sure that they serve us and help us, or at least we get something out of it as Americans, if we're so we don't sit on the couch. Now, I've explored the other parties as well, and platforms. And so for me at this point in time, my vote does align with Donald Trump and saving this country. The other candidates for me are still pushing immigration. I want to, even Trump doesn't have an immigration moratorium, but I'm making sure I put it out there to him and the Republicans. No more immigration right now. I'm talking about 10, other people talking about 50, 100 years. I'm talking about 10 to 20 years. However, we need to get some things back on track for America and Americans, and these jobs. We noticed that a lot of the illegals are coming in, and legal H1B1 visas are taking our jobs and positions. So we need to get some things aligned
Well, how are we
where
gonna take your
Americans.
jobs?
I'm
You
sorry,
tripping?
repeat that.
How do we take your jobs? I'm like, you guys are like, we
Did you
can't
I'm
take
not
create
gonna
jobs.
lie.
anything in
Hold on, Sister Raw.
America? Did you
It's the
create
Don't
visa.
anything in
interrupt her again,
America
It's
bro.
the
though?
people with the visa
Don't
that
interrupt
come
her
from
again, bro.
Mexico
She was
take your
talking. I know
jobs.
that you felt hit by what she was saying. Don't
No,
interrupt
I'm
her again,
not.
dog.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
just
okay,
let
shut
me
up. Cause
talk.
she was
No one was
talking.
talking to
No,
you,
Shut up.
but
She
I
was talking.
wasn't finished, sir.
she
Fuck
Who
wrong
stopped
is
with
though,
you.
and
this?
she's like, "What
I
you
can't
say?"
see the
I was like,
person
"All
on
right, then
the
I'll
green
talk."
chat.
And then I talk. No,
No, no,
No, you
no. I
can't
wasn't
talk. She was
complete.
talking.
I wasn't complete. But check,
Sorry,
thank
y'all.
you.
He's been removed. I don't tolerate that in my rooms. Okay, everybody's been very respectful. We've had a nice flow to the room. Raise your hand. Unc got his hand raised up. I'm gonna let Sexy Rock continue to cook, and then Unc, you can go ahead and go.
Right. I'm just voting on our collective right now. I'm asking individuals in my family to vote along lines with the collective so that we can see the fruit of our labor and leveraging our vote since we don't have any representation at this point in time. And leveraging it for me is looking at some of what Trump, his policy, what he's willing to do to save America, and the biggest one for me is the 14th Amendment, because I can see how it will stifle any immigrants coming to this country, because this has been the caveat lately, right, in the last 40, 50 years. So that's where I'm at. But I encourage everyone to do get out and vote. Our ancestors did a great deal for us to make sure that we get out to vote for our best interests, because it's a part of the political process. It's not the only part of the political process, but it is a part of it where we still have to make sure we have our representation. And hopefully many of you will, like Check. I appreciate you, Check, running for office. We need more young men, young Black men running for office. So I'll land it there. And thank you, founder, for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Black women always protected in my presence.
Thank you, Check. Go ahead, Unc, and then April.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Founder, Sexy Rod Family Tree. I hope y'all doing well. Uh, this is just Unc's observation of where we are politically in America's political game, right? Um, for too long, well, first of all, let's just say neither party really give a fuck about us in present day, right? Only time the Republican Party really had our back is when we created it back in the old days, right? But since then, that's been compromised with some of the same people from the Democrat Party now being over in the Republican Party, which was our party. So at the end of the day, foundational Black Americans have not been playing politics like we should have. We're just beginning to understand it, and we're moving according, and we're learning it in real time, right? So at the end of the day, we have to figure out if we're gonna play the game. We know it's a party driven game, right? If we're gonna play the game, then you have to find the party that either you can infiltrate or the party that's speaking some of the things that you're talking, not all of the things, right? Now, this is the problem I have sometimes when we come with the couch conversation and all this. We want to hold the Republican Party to the same standard or to the same challenge as we do the Democrat Party. For 60 plus years, we have not fucked with the Republican Party. For 60 plus years, we have fucked with the Democrat Party. So if anybody should be told that we're not voting for you because you ain't doing shit for us, it's the Democrat Party. Now there are only two parties that even make sense in this American political game. That's called the Republican Party, Democrat Party. Right now, today, there is no other party that can even compete with them, right? So realistically, when I'm looking at learning and how to play this game, you go with the party that's at least saying something. I can agree with some things on the Republican Party. I can't agree with shit on the Democrat Party, right? So I find some things that's in common with me. Now, I am going to be going to the Republican side, not just because of who's in Washington, D.C., but who's on the local level. Those seats are available. You got to sell your child's future to the Democrat Party to even be a part of that cult, right? You got to sell out America and your lineage and your future for your people with that party. With the Republican Party, I'm clear that they are American first. I can at least live with that. At least you're talking about Americans, right? Not no motherfucking Office of New America immigrant takeover, right? That motherfucking agenda. So this is how I'm looking at it. So I give my cash to the Republican Party because that's the party that's fighting for America. So I'm gonna be on the side of America first, right? This is just how I'm looking at it from my point of view. Do I like the Republican Party necessarily? I don't give a fuck really about what party. I'm an independent. I'm looking for the party that's going to put us first. Not one party, not the Green Party. Well, they say the Green Party. I heard the Green Party, but none of Cornel West wasn't talking about reparations until we put pressure on him. Nobody talks about our shit till we put pressure on them, right? So that means we not really in the game. So we got to put people in the seats. Our conversation got to come to the forefront. We got to find a party and dominate that party. And for what I see, the Republican seats are easy to take in all the areas of the South and everywhere we want to go. Why? Because there's no competition on that side, right? And so we're going to return back. I'm returning back to my original party who went against all the things that the Democrats are doing. They are the original KKK party. Somewhere down the line, we got tricked into joining the enemies. We decided we wanted to go sit ourselves in the fucking lion's den and think the lion ain't gonna eat us the fuck up while we in his den, right? So we got to do some rethinking. We got to sitting on the couch a lot of work. couple of elections ago when there was grace on the table of black people. That grace is no longer there. Those times are no longer there. Our shit is up against the wall, and we fighting like a motherfucker to keep them from taking our soil, disrespecting our ancestors. And we want our country back, bro. We want our motherfucking country back, and we want everybody who's against us to get the fuck up out of here. That's whether you legal or fucking illegal. If you ain't with America first, if you ain't respecting the motherfuckers who built this bitch, then get the fuck up out of here. And that's whether you legal or fucking illegal. This land is our land. It belongs to us. And that's what we're coming for. So when I'm looking at these two parties, that's why I voted red, right? Not because of Donald Trump. He just happened to be the one fucker running, right? Yes, he say some crazy shit. But one thing I know for sure I could get from him that I don't get from Kamala is that he's American first, right? So I'm rolling with that shit. 10 toes down. I'm rolling with my family reparations 10 toes down. I'm rolling with my ancestors who doing some amazing shit that we can't that in the background. That's what I'm rolling. If you ain't team foundational American, right? Then I don't know what the fuck to tell you, right? But I do know this: the game is played by votes for as much as it counts, right? So play the game. Because if you don't, people say, well, if you don't vote, then it's not a vote that the Democrats get. Well, I look at it both ways. It ain't a vote that the Republicans get either. So if you're trying to have the number game played, right, then you got to go with one or the other, whether you like it or not. Like I told some of my family members that decided they wasn't going to vote, I said, well, vote for me. Do you love me? Vote for me. I'm out here fighting for you and your grandchildren, even though you don't realize I'm doing it. I'm fighting for everybody on this stage, grandkids and unborn children. 20 million of our babies, right? Didn't get to complete the scripture that says, I knew you before you were in your mother's womb, that you would do great things. 20 million of those visions and those prophets that were taken away from a system that said they still support it, right? No, bro, I can't do that no more. We should be at 40, what's that? That's about what's that? 60 million we should be at plus. I because I really don't know numbers, right? But so this is why it's very important to us, man, that we get these demons out of office. And the only way you're gonna get them out of office is that you're gonna have to vote for the other side. Because if to me, like I said, not voting, it hurts both, right? It doesn't really support either thing. It's just like I ain't gonna vote, and then you're a non-fucking factor. So if you ain't vote, say
Oh, did we lose him?
I know. It's like I don't hear him either. Unc, are you still there? Because you was cooking. I wanted to let you land, and then we're gonna go to April, and then Dr. Brown, and then to Immortal. Um, April, go ahead and go. If Unc pops back in, let him finish. But go ahead.
Good morning, family.
so,
Peace,
sorry,
peace.
yeah, sorry about that,
Oh,
y'all. I got a call. Sorry, that was my doctor. So I started to hang up, but I didn't know. But that's kind of what Unc is, right? If y'all can still hear me, if you ain't gonna vote, man, and please, please, let's get these demons out, bro. Like, let's get these motherfuckers out our motherfucking lives, man. And that's where I'm at. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Finally, appreciate it.
Thanks, Unc. Go ahead, April.
good morning, family. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
All right. Good morning. Peace, power, and reparations to the people. I had came up here when that motherfucker was interrupting Ra. That's why I came up here. um,
You was coming
um,
with the smoke, huh?
What? Don't you ever talk to my sister like that. I don't care if you never see us together. I think not. But that was why I had came up here. But to the topic, I'm not sure if you went over it already, but who Pontius Pilate was, and and what role he played in this story of Jesus. But it's quite interesting. I'm gonna post some information in the chat because I think people knowing that kind of helps them answer this question. But I feel like really what everyone else feels is that we need to be on every side of the aisle. I am a strong supporter of the Redemption Party. We were talking about that yesterday. I love the name. Like it's just so many ways in which I just love it. But I do feel that we need to be everywhere. We can't replace and remove if we are not inserting who that will be, and then being in a position of holding them accountable. That's where that's our problem. Is what is the consequence for fucking us over? What is, sorry for cursing, what is that, right? And what does that look like? And so that's as well where we are, is we are holding people accountable, we're holding their feet to the fire. And What's happening with the Republican Party is that they don't want Black Americans to replace the immigrants who are speaking on our behalf, right? They don't want that message to change. Essentially, that's the issue that I see with them. But it's inevitable, right? And I do believe over the next decade that we'll be in a much stronger position than we are now. Like Unc said, we've been kind of doing politics wrong, right? Politics is not just pulling the lever. You know what I'm saying? It's literally much more than that. It's lobbying. We have to really focus on that more. Writing our own legislation, funding our candidates, knowing who they are, right? Because if we're funding you and paying you, we know we can pull up at your house. And I believe that we're also at that space, right? That it's time for us for everybody to get in their respectable lanes, right? You be the respectable Negro, but we also have those that's gonna come tear some shit up, because that's gonna have to happen. That's as well. That's gonna have to happen. I don't see it happening any other way. But how, when, and how, who knows? But thank you for the space. And I'm gonna post the information in the chat.
Thank you, April. Go ahead, Dr. Brown.
Yeah, good morning to the host and everyone in the room. I want to agree with both April and Unc. What's fascinating to me is that this party has drifted so far away from what I grew up with, and people have remained quiet or complicit. And I will agree too with what April said about knowing who Pontius Pilate was. Pontius Pilate was a Roman ruler, he was a politician, but he was so enamored with the wisdom, truth, and value of Christ, he kept trying to ask the Jews who wanted to destroy him. Are you sure you want this man versus you want Barabbas versus this man? And the people were like, no, we want Barabbas, because the people didn't want right. They wanted to continue to be in their position of having influence and power to do wrong. And that's how I see how the Democratic Party has drifted from when I was a child. And I also agree with April about the Republicans. They are just as complicit as allowing these black-faced immigrants to represent us. They knew they weren't us, but they allowed them to represent us as long as they spoke to their agenda. You don't need no reparations. Pull yourself up by the bootstrap. America is the land of opportunity as you work hard. And that's the message they carried on behalf of the Republican Party. And so now we have gotten to the point where we've woken up and said, look, we have every right to say what we want this country to look like. We are the most vested group in this country. How dare you tell us that we can't have our vote go in our interest? And I think that the churches have been terribly compromised, a lot of the ministers, but I'm happy to see a resurgence of some that's saying, wait a minute, this is a bit too far for me too. Because now y'all got us in here engaging and supporting policies on the low that we know are in direct contradiction to what our faith traditions believe. And so now you are starting to see a lot of ministers get the courage to reject this absurdity. And I'm very, very, excited about that. So in summary, because I got me at 11, I'm gonna try and stay as much as I can and come back because I think this conversation gonna get real interesting. Voting the couch to me is you have a right. Okay, I'm gonna just say that because you have a right to do whatever you want. But I think it is one of the most immature perspectives about where we're at and what's at stake. And I think it's low key kind of like not doing your part to help. because we are in a crisis state. And if we allow these people to get back into position, they are going to do everything they can policy wise to erase us, because we really are the sandbags in protecting this country's continuance. And they want to take us out of position. The other thing that'll happen is that we'll get a final true count of how many of us are here. That's another thing they've been playing with the numbers by creating these little fake groups, just like they did with MENA. And now they create a whole new category, Hispanic Latino, that has every race in it. That is a policy strategy to continue to erase us and our voice and our impact politically. There is we are so undercounted. I have no doubt that we're probably more like 60 million in this country, but because a lot of us don't take the census and get counted, they don't really know, and so they create these kind of little fake psyop messages that, well, y'all only the second largest non-white group. No, we're probably the largest group in this country if we got an accurate account, if you break everybody down by their classification, like German, Italian, Jewish, and all that stuff, that they have all collapsed into white. When have they ever collapsed us into a group? If you took us and those persons who are multi-generational white and created a group, would that not be a large group? It'll be a huge group. But this is just gamesmanship and playing so that you can get people to disengage, because what you're doing is telling them you don't have enough numbers to count. And we're showing them with all of these polls, especially black men, yeah, we've always been the kingmakers in this country. You just didn't want us to know that. And so now we're starting to see that with both black men and women in this current political season, that we are the ones who are going to decide the course of this country. Too bad, too sad you don't like it, because this is our only place to live. We can't jump ship and run back to another country. This is our country. This is the land of our nativity. And so, we have to protect it, and we have to make sure that we are allowed to say what we want our country to look like. I don't want to be in a place where I'm afraid to go to the grocery store at night because somebody might hit me over the head or try and take my car and all that stuff. And it is no question that the unvetted influx of people into this country has created a dangerous environment. And I do think it was intentional in order to disenfranchise us. And so now we all have to stand up and act to protect what we want our country to look like. Countries have walls, borders, and gates for a reason. There makes no sense to me for us to open up our borders and let just any old body come in here who ain't put no work in here. And a lot of times when you come in here and you extract and don't put nothing in proportionally to you, you are destroying that country. And so this is the model that I hear coming out of the mouth of Kamala Harris. And it's not what I want for my country. And I don't think that any of us do. I think that some of us are looking short term and have been so reparations focused. We don't realize that if we let these people get in here and change that census, they're going to change the whole makeup of your elected officials. You will get representation that will not be based on you. It'll be based on the people they influx in your area in order to distort how many representatives you can get or not get. So there's just so many things at stake in this election, and we have foiled. We have woken up. We have become attentive to the game and people what they was trying to do, and people are mad. But I believe not only is this a political, intellectual awakening, I believe it's a spiritual one. And so, we don't battle against flesh and blood. There is spiritual wickedness in high places, and it is showing its behind and its face. And so those of us who are spiritually inclined, in addition to having good sense, we need to come together and push back against this, because greater is he that's within me than he that's in the world. And that's how I move. And now, I'm going to rebuke and push back against what I see as an evil trying to encroach on my homeland. And I'm not with it. So thank you. That's all I want to say for now.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. That was awesome. Go ahead, April.
And I just wanted to add to Dr. Brown, Lisa Brown, about the churches, right? and the need to be delineating every single area of our lives. Because again, when we start to do that, a lot of these churches are not led by descendants. Those that are, we have been invited to come and speak to to the congregation about reparations, right? We are being invited by those who are descendants, and those who are not. So y'all already know. And so we have to delineate. I know y'all get sick of me, but delineate every single thing that comes up, that is speaking or representing or symbolizing us in any way, shape, form, or fashion. That has to be the first thing that we do. What is this? And then it allows us to, to implement the right solutions.
Yeah, I agree with you, April. I think that there needs to be more what I call adult education that happen in the spaces where we navigate. And one of those are the churches. But one of the things that people need to appreciate is the role that the church plays in the community. And that's why I think that some of the church leadership has kind of gotten manipulated as well. And so they're not able to operate in their role as a spiritual institution. The church is not the welfare department. The church is not a community center. The church is a place for spiritual enrichment and to do the work of Christ, to do the work of spreading the gospel. That has been its mission. But what these politicians have done by manipulating 501c3 rules, they have handicapped the church and essentially kind of threaten them that if you don't do what we do, we'll take away your tax status. First, the church shouldn't have never allowed themselves to be placed in that position. But the fact of the matter is that they can't operate because we are a wealthless class collectively. And so when they're dependent on offerings and people being able to, operate, not having to pay taxes, that allows them to function effectively in the material world. But like when you fight for justice and we get reparations, then we can undergird the institutions that support us. And so a lot of times people are trying to compromise too much, or they not really operating in faith. I mean, do you believe God or not? So if you're going to stand on your square in terms of your faith and position, then stand on your square, because the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. You acting like the earth is the politicians and you got to do what they say. So either you're going to be in faith or you're going to be in fear. And I choose to operate in faith, and I'm pushing back against the things that are against our survival. How can you be the group that believe that Jesus took two fish and some loaves of bread and fed 5,000, but be afraid to speak out against immoral conduct and wrong against these people coming into your church to say vote for me? Either you gonna believe God or you not. And yeah, so that's my feeling about that. You have to have the courage and then believe to see God work. But too many people have been operating on, like when the Apostle Paul talked to the church of Corinth, he said, "Y'all so immature. I had come here wanting to bring you meat, which was spiritual maturity, but I can only give you milk because you so immature." Even though you operating in all these gifts of the Spirit, and all these expressions of the Holy Spirit in terms of the ability to prophesy, speak in tongues, and all that, you so spiritually immature that I can only give you milk. I can't give you no depth. And so what is happening, I like to believe, not only in our community is there a paradigm shift about who we are as Black people and understanding what we have to do. I think that there is a revival that's occurring inside the church, where those spiritual leaders who are going to operate in truth, faith, and courage are going to emerge and push back as well. They have to.
Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
agree. Go ahead,
No, I was just saying, the boldness of separation of church and state only gets pushed to the side when election time. Now there used to be a time they would come in and Let them say a little something. Wasn't long, was just short, kind of, and they didn't push people to who they wanted, right? But now it's just like fuck it. Vote for me. I'm gonna vote for you. Vote who vote for. Like, are we all in agreement? They say we're more one or two come in agreement. We there, it's like what the fuck?
Right.
So everything is out of order,
Yeah.
bro. Like it is just so out of order with the church I grew up in,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like all the things that that party agrees on, the church used to didn't go with that. They even though they may have been Democrats, they still had that teaching that the Republican Party was the most racist side. And then when we started believing that the Democrats wasn't, is where the fall came. We started believing that we overlooked that they were the KKK originator party, right? Overlooked the fact that the Republican Party started in the old days to fight against this party. Overlook all that because information and media and everything made you believe that a party was hateful. We just start believing what was told. Why? Because we were trained to believe whatever the fuck they teach us is it, right? Which is crazy for me because I'm a person now who was able to research. When I was growing up, there was no such thing as Google what they was teach you in America. You couldn't Google nothing. You just believed it, and that's the way it is. And that's where a lot of people are stuck.
Yeah.
We were so trained up in the wrong way till it is hard. What the Bible says, if you train up a child or a group of people or a nation or black America in the way that they shouldn't go, right? Misinformation. When they get older, it'll be very difficult for that group of people to break that shackle in their mind because they were trained from the womb to the classroom and through life. Misinformation, wrong ways. And so we that have broken those shackles and we clearly see, right? We understand it, but those people are still stuck there. But that was a hell of a mind fuck to break,
Well,
bro. Like we were trained.
I always kind of get chalks on the nails on the chalkboard when the scripture ain't right. It says raise up a child in the way that they should go, and when they're older they
Right,
won't depart from it. So you kind of said a little
right.
bit backwards, but I also wanted to mention.
No, no, what I'm saying is we were raised up the wrong
Yeah,
way. But the
okay.
the rule still applies. If raise them up in the right way, in the way that they should go, and when they're older, they won't soon
And
depart. But you can
that's
also
not
raise
just
them up.
out of just doing it. It's because it becomes a part of your life. You see it that it's real, you
Correct,
know? Yeah.
Because
correct.
And
faith
That's what
without
I'm
works
saying.
is
So
dead,
from
right?
that's right.
right,
But
That's
all
right.
that
And you
but it
have
together.
to
goes.
Yeah,
have evidence of that working for you. You see what I'm saying? That you have that over time, it's like developmental because you know how he said, I know God did that and he did it this time, he'll do it next time because you develop a relationship, not a religious practice. And so even for me, when I became a Christian, I was 18 years old. I had left the church I was in because it wasn't feeding me anymore. Because I started reading the scripture for myself and I start maturing in God myself.
study
And
to show
so,
yourself
yes,
approved.
and
That's right.
so, you can't just tell me anything because when I hear somebody misquote, I said, no, that's not Hebrews 11. That's Hebrews 12 and 1 that said we're surrounded by a great crowd of witnesses. And even now, like I teach at a school, it's a Catholic school. I didn't realize that they don't read the Bible. They kind of like listen to a priest. And so in all of my classes, I start off when I introduce the lesson, I always have a scripture. So I'm doing what I believe my role and a charge was to be a fisher of men. And so I speak the word of God in my class because I want to set a tone in the environment. And what our churches have done is lost the tone. And so they're operating, they drop down to the world's level instead of being the salt and light that God charges us to be in the world. Because this is one scripture said, if the salt loses its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? And so that's what the church has done. It has lost its capacity to be a beacon for direction for people. And so
And that's
I hope,
since
yeah, I hope we are
just to
returning to
your
that.
point on that scripture,
And I want to say one
just
more
to your
thing,
point on that scripture.
because I got a meeting. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm so sorry, but I have a meeting and I wanted to say this. I'm not against all Democrats. you have to base it based upon where you're at in your state, in your locale, in your municipality. I'm from Ohio. I Even though I work here in Texas, I work politically more in Ohio because I know the Black Democrats there. We've had a long-standing organization called BETO. And so they have always had a consciousness about Black Americans who were multi-generational Blacks. Even as we have increased in the new Americans, they never lost sight of being advocates for us. And so I have supported those candidates and will continue to support them. But at the same time, I reach out to my Republican representatives as well. I literally went to J.D. Vance's office before he was selected because he allowed me to come in there and share my concerns about the junk they was doing with the OMB. And I met with his director, and they put me in touch with his general counsel. So I continue to work with my governor. My governor is Republican, but my state representative is Democrat. My sister is a state representative, and my congresswoman is a Democrat. So I don't just, say trash all the Democrats and now we run over here to get exploited and mistreated by the Republican. I go case by case and I work across the aisles with whoever's going to listen to us to center our interests. And that's what we have failed to do. We have and they really feel like we're going to run from being, I don't like that plantation stuff because I believe that's the rhetoric of the Republicans. But I don't like people saying we leaving the Democratic plantation only to run to the Republican plantation. No, ain't nobody getting it easy no more. Y'all all gonna speak to our interests, or you will not get our vote. And so that's all I wanted to say. I got to get ready for my meeting, but I'm gonna try and come back in here. Thank you.
Unc, I wanted to add to your point though, that grace, because we're a young people group. And so I definitely get what you're saying, for sure. But the tides are turning and we're not here to wake up sheep, right? It's rumbling in the stomachs and the souls of many Black Americans. And like the doctor said, I do believe as well that we are 60 million plus. I do, yes, I do believe that. And so, and I think more people, that's why we are having this social awakening and engagement, because it does resonate with so many of the descendant community, and it doesn't take long. We just have to stay consistent and it will continue to grow, and operating on both sides, demanding from both sides. We're just not playing. And the next generation is even more ready and tired. Right? There's things that I'm new to voting. I was definitely off the grid, F the establishment. I could do this on my own, and we did that for generations. And so politics is new for me, and my family, right? But I got Gen Zers, and we all voting this time, right? We started voting 2 years ago for the first time in my life. I'm almost 50. And so an awakening is happening, and we just have to stay consistent. So shout out to everyone who is staying consistent in the lane that they're great in, because that's what we need, and we need more of y'all to connect with others, to do that, so we remain consistent, and on point. Great space.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. And my thing is this, right? This is something I tell people. Whether your community or your people are doing good or whether they're doing bad. If they're doing bad, my question to you is always who's training up your people? Right? If they're not doing what the community and what the lineage says it's supposed to do, then who's training up your people? If it is doing good and it's doing like the Jews and the Asians and everybody else, then who's training up those people and how they're thinking to look out for each other and everything, right? So we have to regain control, which is why I always use that scripture. I know it's not quoting it as it is, but I'm just saying the training of the mind aspect from the womb to the classroom. Whoever is in charge of training your people up on how they should act for your people first is a very important piece of this puzzle. So not only do we have to delineate, we have to take control of everything that goes into our kids' minds so that they know that even though I'm going to integrate and go work outside of the community, I'm gonna be like the Koreans and bring the money, segregate and bring the money back to my community. So there's nothing wrong with integration if your mind is right, right? Because everybody integrate into our community, but they don't segregate with the money. They ain't putting no shit up in our communities. They taking the bag and they going back to where they are. Why? Because that's how they were trained before they got to America. And this is why I think that is a very powerful scripture that we have to get back to. We have to get back to training up our people in the way that they should operate, so that when they get older, they'll pass that shit on to their kids and their kids, right? That's how you have to do this mental programming of your people, right? So yeah, yeah, we at it though, but we winning, man. Like I'm so excited because I see my ancestors doing things that had nothing to do with us, right? Because even though it looks good that Kamala walks through the church, God and ancestors are using it against it. Even though there was a time even though that there was two people at this Kamala rally, one said something about something, and one said something about Jesus. The one that the ancestors got focused on the most was what? The one about Jesus. So now that comes out. They're waking up who? That's waking up the church now. Because you can talk about anybody in the world, but don't you talk about my Jesus, right? So they now look, and this has nothing to do with us. We're doing our part as being in the carnal part of it, right? We're doing our part, but that spiritual part, Janet Jackson got thrown in the game. She didn't even know she was gonna be in it. Just a simple question. Kamala Black? No, well, I ain't heard. I heard she wasn't. But then look at the perfect arrangement of the ancestors. They took Janet, who has art against Kamala because of the shit she done to Michael. That ain't nothing we making up. That shit was televised, how she felt and what she was doing, right? So at the end of the day, this spiritual thing is going on in the spirit realm, and this thing we doing on this earth, we in a great position because trust me, 2020 there was no conversation about FBA, Freedmen, Negro, none of that. As a matter of fact, everybody on social media was telling us we were running our mouths and all that shit we was gonna get done, wasn't gonna get done. This is just some app shit, not knowing that the world is on apps now, right? So now look at us now. Your initials was on the news, FBA, who all the news people talking about misinformation. They talking about us. We the ones pushing against you motherfuckers. Nobody else is. So that's us. So we are on their radar now. So now that we on your radar, now you finna find out who the fuck we are. So between 24 and 28, just stand by. We finna raise up in this motherfucker because this is our land. And we gonna represent our ancestors and make them proud of us, right? Our land.
Okay, thanks for your feedback, Uncle. We have a new speaker. Okay. I'm
Well,
not
good
going to try to check
morning and
them.
thanks for the opportunity. Hello, everyone. How are you? In 2020, we actually were saying ADOS. So let's not forget the route that this came to be. By 2020, they were threatening those who were in the movement. We were called everything but who we are. Um, this rumbling, I first felt this social ethnic rumbling around 2016, 17. So, with the insertion, with Trump's presidency and the whole nine, I just want to make sure that we're keeping accurate count. We This fight's a long running one. And we're going to put the situation where it belongs. It wasn't Trump. It wasn't, all them other people we be trying to blame. It was the Democratic Party, their benign neglect, and their views on immigration and ethnic erasure that got us here. We're not going to keep blaming everybody individually as if there's particular, oh no, it was just, no, 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 no. The Democratic Party made it very clear to Black American people that they care not of our future, of our existence, our prosperity. So we gonna let them hold this L. Thank you, Democrats, for waking up Black America.
And thank you for all of your hard work, Kay, and your contribution. Yeah. because that is unfortunate and happening. Let me see. I got a speaker. I'm trying to do this without a co-host, so y'all forgive me. I'm bringing up somebody that I'm not familiar with, and I'm not sure why I can't bring them up. I'm gonna give them a second. Does anyone have anything in response to Kay's submission while I bring this person up? Because I can't bring you up. Ah, okay. I think the space is locked. Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm like, okay,
It
Glow.
might be that they'd have to. I know
Yeah,
sometimes when you
drop
can
and
get
then come
invited,
back.
yeah, you gotta leave and
Yeah,
come
let me
back.
try
Try
that.
co-hosting somebody, me or sexy, just so you can shake up.
It's 5 spots. It says on the thing, so it should be available stage room. I just know
Yeah,
sometimes this app be apping, and you gotta kind of leave out and come back and try to request again.
yeah. It was Glow. There's
And then
somebody
you
who has
can't
to
really
request
tell who
it.
be in these rooms either, though. Who mics on and stuff. The shit is so weird, man.
Yeah, it does. Look, we all know it can get kind of on the awkward side of glitching. So let me see. I'm gonna invite Unc to co-host with me, see if that helps. But yeah, I'm gonna see if I can bring Glow up as a speaker. But yes, but again, Kay, thank you so much for all of your hard work. Because I've heard a lot of people talk about their reparations journey, and I really just got you know wind of it. I want to say 2 years ago when I was running for president, when I started my presidential run before I started the Redemption Party. And I just appreciate all the groundwork that everybody's laid, and it's been a labor of love. And there have been people out there, the naysayers, you guys are never going to get reparations. Well, we're not going to get it if we don't work for it. We're definitely not going to get it if we're listening to you. So I'm just glad that people aren't listening to the naysayers, because I think we're a lot closer to getting our reparations than we really think. But we have to be diligent. Like, you're not going to get anything without hard work. You're not going to get this without the diligence, because no one's going to hand it to us. And look, it's one of those things. This we know. Nobody's going to hand us anything. Nobody wants to hand us anything. And that's okay, you know, because again, without hard work, you're not going to appreciate the reward. So I'm just grateful for, everybody that I've met along the way, and everybody that I'm going to continue to meet. And when we're standing, side by side with whoever the president is or whoever the legislatures are, and when they sign it into law, that's going to be a day of celebration. And that's what I see. I'm that I see the finish line, but that's what keeps me going. I don't get caught up in the weeds of despair, because if we did, we wouldn't get there. But with that, I'm going to let everybody have their closing statements, and then I'm going to get the room closed. So, ladies first, if we can start with Sexy Raw, then go to Dr. Brown, then Kay, and then Check, and then Unc, I'll let you go ahead and close it out.
I'll say this is a great discussion, and I'm glad you opened the space, founder, so we could discuss the couch at this pivotal time of the election. Again, I will say we have to start somewhere. We see where we're at right now in the political process, and I would like for us to, or my vision would be for us to stand together as a collective right now, and vote in someone that we know is going to deport and at least begin to shut down the borders and also challenge some things with immigration. And I do believe in and foresee us leveraging our voting power right now. We can or will be able to leverage it into reparations. So there's with immigration, we can leverage it into reparations, because we see most of the monies that are being going to the illegal immigrants, and even supporting legal immigrants via affirmative action and things of that nature. Those are things for us specific, as an ethnic group and founding population of America. And I want us to remember that we are a founding population of this country, and we have a piece of the pie and equity here that no one else has. And we don't have to give it to share it with anyone. It is ours. We already worked for it. Our ancestors worked for it for us. And we can make sure that we uh, gain it and sustain it for our future lineages. So I'll land it there.
Thanks,
Hey,
Sexy
founder,
Rod.
I gotta go make a call, but I
Okay.
just want you to, but I appreciate it. I'll be listening. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks,
All right.
okay.
Mhm.
Was I next?
Um, yes, Dr. Brown, we're gonna let you
Okay.
speak, and I just wanted to let Texwell know. Texwell, you'll go after Check.
Yeah, and gosh, I always get so nervous when my mic come off. But I think what Sexy Rob was saying about us being a founding population of this country, we don't need to lose sight of that. That's important, because that speaks to how we are invested in seeing its survival. I have heard people say, "Let America burn. We don't care that it all burn down." I don't want it to burn down. That's where I live. What is you talking about? And so I think it's important to keep that in mind as we go forward. And the other thing too, Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without a demand. And to me, using my vote is part of that demand. And I don't understand the mentality people say, well, if you ain't give me what I want, I'm just going to sit on the couch. To me, that sounds like a girl who like a boy, and she's like, well, if he don't call me, then I ain't gonna never let him date me. Well, then he'll never call you, because you haven't showed that you had an interest in him, or you haven't told him what your expectations are. And so to me, it's almost like childish to say that I'm gonna sit on the couch, but I will defend your right to do that, because we live in a free nation and it allows us to make that choice. I just don't think it's a wise one, but I'm not going to spend time beating you up about a choice that our ancestors fought for you to be able to make. What I can do is exercise some persuasion and help you to appreciate how you doing that is really not serving us well in the long run, because there's so many things at stake that we don't necessarily realize. Because historically, both parties have just used us for our vote, and they courted us just for our vote, not to necessarily create a justice that was in line with what the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment required they do post Reconstruction, was to repair and integrate us into our full citizenship that we deserve. And so that's where we're at right now. And all of those amendments were not created for anybody who just coming here illegally, and certainly not those who come here and have not made the investment in this country. The 14th Amendment was not designed for you to come here, have a child, take that child back home, and then use them for chain migration so you could get the rest of your family in here and siphon off of what the American economy has made available here, to go back and send that money back to your home country and then leave here and go because the dollar stretched further and go and live there. You didn't love America. You didn't want to see America survive and do well. And I have I feel some kind of way about people who have that mentality. I even struggle when I see people throwing up flags from other countries and disrespecting ours. If you want to fly your flag, okay, that's fine. But you're not going to come here and be hostile toward me as a member of a native population of this country. And I think that our immigration system has failed us in that way, in terms of educating people about generally Black American history in this country, but certainly, just like you can't come here and be a Nazi according to immigration law, you should not be able to come here and hold hostilities and animus against Black Americans because of the stereotypes that got exported to your country about who we are, and the false tropes and lies about who we are. We are the hardest working people in this country. And for somebody to come here and say that we lazy and we don't work hard and just ignore all of the incredible things that we've done under these conditions, it's the height of of offensive. But we gonna let them know, because this a new day, this a paradigm shift in reality, and y'all gonna and y'all are finding out who we are, because we them people's kids that made this nation survive. So you don't even know the dragon you done woke up. But we gonna make it right.
Thank you for your submission. Go ahead, Kay. Miss Kay, can you hear me? I'm just scared to say her. Cavassier? Yeah, okay. Cavassier. There we go. I just wanted to make sure I said it right. All right. Maybe she's having connection issues. Go ahead, Texwell. If Cavassier steps in, if you wouldn't mind letting her speak, but if go ahead and give us your thoughts.
Thank you, Founder Redemption Party. Thank you for your work. Um, I would hope next time we get a political cycle that people will do like, no, the couch ain't it. But what also is not it is stomping for a candidate or party from the beginning of a political cycle without making any demands. I need to see black people who are Republican and Democrat. Uh, I need to see them doing more than not vote, than not just not the couch. I need to see black people using that primary process to put pressure on whatever party they decide to choose. So if you're a black Democrat, then you should use the primary system to vote uncommitted to get the attention of the Democratic Party to let them know what your agenda is. Likewise, if you're a black Republican, I need you to use that primary system to vote uncommitted in the primary. You can still vote for your man at the end, but in the beginning, you don't come out prematurely stomping for a candidate or a party. You use the primary system and you say, I'm in the party, but I'm not through the door yet. I'm almost there, but there's some things I need to talk to you about. And the primary system is the way you get their attention. So when you get their attention, they're going to say, well, who are all these black Republicans and what do they want? And they're going to want to have a sit down with you, and then you can chop it up and go over the details, because the devil is always in the detail. So a candidate like Trump, who talks tough on immigration, you need to know what the number looks like. How many immigrants are you planning to deport or extradite? What does that, like Bernie Sanders asked us about when we asked him about reparations, he said, what does that look like? So that's what we have to do. And this is what every other constituency does. The agents have a sit down with these politicians. They come to the agents and they come to their conferences and they say, what is the agents? What do you want? But black Americans jump out the gate. We jump out the window supporting candidates and parties on both sides without making any demands. So if I was a black Republican, I beat up on Democrats all day, so I'm not even talking about them. But if I was a black Republican, I would say you could have my vote, Mr. Trump, but I need you to get your goddamn dirty hands off my black history. I need you to tell your governors to shoot down these laws that punish states that have reparations initiatives. That's what politics looks like, y'all. And so we need to level up to this. I'm not saying you shouldn't support this person or that person, but when you come out the gate stomping, you are a cheerleader. You are an operative. You're not an advocate for black people, and black people cannot afford to be cheerleading for neither one of these parties. We have to be putting pressure on these parties. We have to get in a fight with our political parties. We have to come out with some scratches, some whelps on our back, some knots on our head. That's what we have to do. You can't come out of this clean. You got to fight your party for what you need. You have to make those demands. And then you can, in the end, support your party, but make sure they know what you want. Don't run from a Democratic plantation and jump on a Republican hay wagon and sing and whistle Dixie. Thank you, Sister Founder, for the space.
Thank you for your submission, Texwell. Go ahead, Sexy Riot, in response to Texwell.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to say now, there's been a concerted effort on our behalf. Those of us that are Republicans, I say I'm a radical Republican, like my ancestors, right? Or you can be a Frederick Douglass Republican, right? But I want to highlight that we are again promoting individuals to become precinct committee men and committee women in your areas, because then you are very, very involved with your political party and vetting candidates, supporting candidates, and also so we have um, uh, um, the space to speak on our behalf as a collective within the party. So I just wanted to highlight that and remind individuals it doesn't take you going to a primary to state your case, and then also support us in these political spaces. I'll land it there.
And thank you for your submission, Sexy Raw. I brought somebody up to be speaker, but I can't see them. So I don't know if it's me or if it's the space. I do apologize, but I was getting ready to close out the space. But I wanted to thank everybody for coming, just for their submission, their words. We were talking about, does voting the couch make you a Pontius Pilate Christian? And what I was referring to metaphorically is, are you just washing your hands and saying, well, it's not my responsibility. It'll just, pan out however it does, whether I vote or not. And we've had a lot of, you know, varying opinions in the space. And I'm just so grateful for everyone's submission, just stating how important it is to vote. And if you choose not to vote, because Check, he was in the space earlier, not to speak for him, but he explained why he wasn't voting in this cycle. But at the same time, he wants to run for political office. So he wants to actually get involved in the process because he's like, I'm not going to go down without fight, and that was definitely to Texwell's reference. And I definitely appreciate that fire because we need to remember this is our country, this is our responsibility. And we are some of the original people that laid the groundwork for this country. And just to respect our ancestors, we need to stand up and make sure that this country does not fall apart on our watch. We are the generation that our ancestors prayed for that would come behind them to ensure that America stays a free nation. They fought and died so that we could be free. And again, I just want to thank everybody who joined the space, and we'll do another one sometime next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.